Welcome my dear learners for the course on point element analysis. In our module 3, we are discussing about analysis of beams. In our previous two lectures, I have derived expression for Hermite shape function and I also derived expression for stiffness matrix of a beam element, and I also explained how to determine shear force and bending moment by using deflection equations. Now, before moving on to solve the problems on beams or analysis of beams, the prerequisites are inevitably you must remember these formulas. There is no other choice. You must memorize these formulas to solve the problems. Especially the formula for stiffness matrix is very important. Apart from this, you should know the boundary condition. When the problem is given, what is the boundary condition you need to apply is a one important thing you should know, and also depending on the loading condition, you should know what formula is to be employed to determine the element load vector. Element load vector involves force and moment at each node. One element has 4 degrees of freedom, therefore totally it has 2 load vectors at each node and 2 bending moments at each node. If I want to compute the nodal displacements are V1 theta 1 at node 1, V2 theta 2 at node 2. So totally for one element you should compute 4 nodal variables. So now, before moving on to the problems, let me explain what are the different boundary conditions you should know, and also what are the different forces and bending moment formulas you should employ based on the loading conditions, such as point load, uniformly distributed load, uniformly varying load. First, let us discuss about boundary conditions. So in case of boundary conditions, so first one, if a beam is completely fixed at one end and is completely free at another end, if it is completely fixed, the value of deflection as well as the value of slope at that node will be equal to 0. If it is completely free, then both value of deflection as well as value of slope are not equal to 0, so therefore we should determine V2 and theta 2. If it is partially fixed, like one node is completely fixed and another node is arrested only along y-axis. If this is the condition given, so then at node 1 is completely arrested, so therefore V1 is equal to 0 and also theta 1 is equal to 0. Whereas at node 2 only deflection is arrested whereas slope exists. So we should find the value of slope. We should find the value of slope when you have problems like this. So next variety is that, so if you have problems involving all types of boundary conditions, such as one end is completely fixed, other end is applied with a load, point load, and one more end is fixed partially with the help of rollers. If you encounter a problem like this, at node 1 all degrees of freedoms are arrested. So I want to place a node wherever I have point load or material discontinuity or loading discontinuity, and also we have node number 3. So at node 1 both deflection as well as slope is equal to 0. So therefore for condition 3 V1 is equal to theta 1 is equal to, and also at node 3 V3 is also equal to 0. Now at node 2 it is completely free, so therefore I should compute V2 which is not equal to 0. I should compute theta 2 which is also not equal to 0, and also I should compute theta 3 which is also not equal to 0. So therefore for problems with these type of boundary conditions, node 2 is completely free, so therefore you should compute both deflection as well as slope. At node 3, it is arrested in y-axis, so therefore the deflection is 0, but there is a slope existence, so therefore you should calculate the slope at node 3. So these are the different types of boundary condition one should remember before solving the problems on beams. Next, coming for total loads and moments at nodes. So to determine total loads and moments at nodes, if I have the loading conditions at node I and also at node I plus 1, so you should compute both load as well as moment. So load as well as moment. Each element of a beam will have two nodes. At each node we should compute deflection as well as slope. Similarly, if I come in for a load vector, we will be having force as well as moment. So now, coming for the different types of loading conditions in beams. The first case of loading condition is point load. So let us say I have a simply supported beam loaded centrally with a load P. So for a simply supported beam loaded centrally with a load P, the force at node number 1, initial node I, is P by 2, whereas the moment is PL by 8. At I plus 1th node, if this is node 1, and at node 2, it will be P by 2 itself, whereas moment is minus PL by 8. The second category of problems involves uniformly distributed load. If load is uniformly distributed from node 1 to node 2, let us take the same simply supported beam, or we can denote it like this also. So if a beam is having uniformly distributed load, so then the total load at node 1 is given by the formula PL by 2, whereas the moment is given by the formula PL square by 12. At node number 2, it is given by PL by 2, the force, and moment is given by minus PL square by 12. So similarly, if I have uniformly varying load, with simply supported beam with uniformly varying load, so then you will be having the load node at node 1, the load will be 7 PL by 20. At node 1, the load will be 7 PL by 20 and the moment will be PL square by 20. At node 2, the load will be 7 PL by 20 and moment will be minus PL square by 20. So these are the different types of loading conditions on beam that you are going to encounter. Especially you should remember these two formulas which we are going to use predominantly while solving the problems in analysis of beams. And also one more special case of loading condition is there. If you have that type of loading condition, so then the load is given by, so let me erase this figure, or the fourth type of loading condition is beam having loads like this. If beam have WDL as shown in the figure 4, so then the total load at node 1 is given by P naught L by 4, and the total moment is given by the formula 5 P naught L square by 96. Whereas at node 2 it is given by P naught L by 4, and it is 5 P naught L square by 96. So before solving the problem, one should know these things: how to determine the total load at each node, and also the boundary conditions what one has to employ to solve problems on analysis of beams. So kindly note a make of it. So once you know the formulas for shape function, shear force, bending moment, stiffness matrix, boundary conditions and total loads and moments, you can solve problems on beams. And one more important topic you should remember is this: strain displacement matrix. The strain displacement matrix is defined as the matrix containing the values of derivatives of shape function. Whereas in case of beams, it is defined as matrix containing the second derivatives of shape function. That is, d square v by dx square is defined as the strain displacement matrix. The formula for strain displacement matrix is d square n by dx square. So therefore, the bending moment can be written as ei d square v by dx square. We know that the global deflection is equal to shape function into nodal deflection, nodal variables. So therefore, we have ei d square n by dx square into q. So therefore, the formula for bending moment is also written as ei strain displacement matrix into q. This is also a formula for bending moment in analysis of beams. Bending moment. Don't get confused with bending moment and total moment. So these total moments are moments due to the force applied as well as the external moments. If external moments are given, so be cautious that the convention what we are using for load, sign convention, for load acting vertically upwards is taken as positive, and load acting vertically downward is considered as negative. Whereas for externally applied moments, if moment is counterclockwise, we take it as positive. If moment is clockwise, we will take it as negative. So based on this sign convention, we have these formulas to calculate the nodal variables. They are deflection and slopes at each node. So next, in this lecture, let us move on to solve our problem number 1. So far, I have explained what are the prerequisites to solve the problems on analysis of beams. Let us move on to solve the problem number 1. So the problem number 1 is as shown in the figure, and it is asked to determine for each element deflection at midspan and end reactions. So now let us use the constant units for forces and also for the lengths. Only the area moment of inertia is given in terms of millimeter power 4. Let us convert it into meters to the power of 4 by multiplying 10 to the power of minus 12. So I will get 4 into 10 to the power of minus 6 meters to the power of 4. So now the first step is finite element model. So if I do the finite element model for the given problem, so I will be getting at node 1, it is completely fixed. So therefore, the values of V1 is also equal to 0, theta 1 is also equal to 0. At node 2, we have arrested the movement in the y-axis. So therefore, the slope, because deflection is equal to 0, whereas slope is not equal to 0. So this is one thing we have to compute. And at node 3 also, we have roller support. So therefore, here also I should compute the slope, whereas deflection is equal to 0. So I should compute theta 3 at node 3, and the load is UDL in nature. The first load is 12 kilonewtons per meter. From element 2 we have 24 kilonewtons per meter. So this problem can be computed with the help of 3 nodes. And the length is given as, for element 1 it is 4 meters, for element 2 also it is 4 meters. To solve the element stiffness matrix, the second step is element stiffness matrix. The formula for element stiffness matrix is given by EI by LE cube into this matrix. This matrix is symmetric about the diagonal, so therefore I have written only half of the matrix. The remaining half is mirror image about the diagonal. So therefore, by knowing the values of E, I and length, I can compute stiffness matrix for element 1 as well as the stiffness matrix for element 2. So therefore, the stiffness matrix for element 1 is equal to, E is given as 200 into 10 to the power of 11 newtons per meter square. I is given as 400 to the power of minus 6 meter power 4, and length is given as 4 meters. So therefore, if I substitute to that formula, the values for element 1, 4 is the length, E and I are common. So therefore, if I substitute and simplify, I will be getting 200 into 10 to the power of 9 multiplied by 4 into 10 to the power of minus 6 divided by 4 cube. So we will be getting 12,500 as the common factor, and 12,500 should be multiplied inside the matrix. Let me take 10 to the power of 3 as common, and I will multiply 12.5 inside the matrix. If I multiply 12.5 inside the matrix, I will get 12 into 12.5, which is equal to 150, and 6 into length is 4 meters into 12.5, which is equal to 300. Now we have minus 150, and next is 300. So since it is a symmetric matrix, let me fill it. Now coming for the second row, it is 4 into 4 square into 12.5. I get 800 minus 300. Next is 2 into 4 square into 12.5 will yield as 400. Since it is symmetric, let me fill the matrix. And now we have 12 is 150, 6 is 300. It is symmetric. Now 4L square is 800. So this completes element stiffness matrix for element number 1. So now for the element number 1, the nodal variables are V1 theta 1 and V2 theta 2. So to compute the global stiffness matrix, mark the nodal variables for the corresponding element stiffness matrix. I should compute V1 theta 1 and V2 theta 2. So therefore, I should write at the top. Since I don't have any space, let me write it at the bottom. So V1 theta 1, V2 and theta 2. So here I will get V1 theta 1, V2 theta 2. So if you observe the problem, the values remain same for element 2 also. For element 2 also, length is 4, E is same and I is same. So therefore the stiffness matrix remains same for element 2. So therefore for element 2 I will get 10 to the power of 3 multiplied by the same values multiplied by the same values I will get, but the nodal variables for this are v2 theta 2 and v3 theta 3. So therefore at the top you write v2 theta 2 and v3 theta 3. Here you write v2 theta 2 and v3 theta 3. The stiffness matrix for element 1 as well as for element 2 is same because the values of E, I and L is same for element 1 as well as for element 2. So now moving on to step 3. Moving on to step 3, that is global stiffness matrix. So if I find the global stiffness matrix, the order of the global stiffness matrix is equal to n cross n, where n is number of nodes when each node has 1 degree of freedom. The order of global stiffness matrix is equal to 2n cross 2n, where n is number of nodes and each node has 2 degrees of freedom. The order of the global stiffness matrix is 3n cross 3n, where n is number of nodes and the degrees of freedom for each node is 3. But for this problem, the number of degrees of freedom for each node is 2. So therefore, the order of the global stiffness matrix is 2n cross 2n, where n is number of nodes. So the number of nodes for this problem is 3. So therefore, the order is 6 cross 6, where the 6 is nothing but the number of unknowns which we are going to determine. So therefore, the field variables are 6 field variables we have, namely v1 theta 1, v2 theta 2 and v3 theta 3. So therefore, to find the global stiffness matrix, first you write the 6 cross 6 matrix heading with the variables which we should compute. They are v1 theta 1, v2 theta 2, v3 theta 3. So here also I will get v1 theta 1, v2 theta 2, v3 theta 3. So here I have 10 to the power of 3 common. So therefore, for these 4 elements if I take, it is v1 theta 1 cross v1 theta 1. The order for these 4 elements 150, 300, 300, 800. The order of these 4 elements are v1 theta 1 cross v1 theta 1. So this should fit to v1 theta 1 cross v1 theta 1. So I will get 150, 300, 300 and 800. So if I take these 4, the order will be v1 theta 1 cross v2 theta 2. Order will be v1 theta 1 cross v2 theta 2. So order will be v1 theta 1 cross v2 theta 2. So this 4 will fit here. So therefore I will get minus 150, 300, minus 300 and 400. So order of these 4 is v1 theta 1 cross v2 theta 2. So I will get v1 theta 1 cross v2 theta 2. So these 4 will fit here. So I will get minus 150, 300, 300 and 400. So order of these 4 is v2 theta 2 cross v2 theta 2. So therefore v2 theta 2 cross v2 theta 2 will fit here. Therefore I will get minus plus 150, minus 300, minus 300 plus 800. So that completes element 1. Moving on to element 2, the first 4 elements is v2 theta 2 cross v2 theta 2. So first 4 elements are this, where its order is v2 theta 2 cross v2 theta 2. So it will fit here. v2 theta 2 cross v2 theta 2 will fit here. v2 theta 2 cross v2 theta 2. So it will overlap. When it is overlapping, you just add the values. If I add, I will get plus 150, plus 300, plus 300, plus 800. Order of next 4 is v3 theta 3 cross v2 theta 2. So v3 theta 3 cross v2 theta 2 will be this 4. So it will fit into minus 150, 300, minus 300 and 400. So order of bottom 4 elements is V2 theta 2 cross V3 theta 3. So it is V2 theta 2 cross V3 theta 3. It will fit here and the value is minus 150, minus 300, 300 and 400. The order of last 4 is V3 theta 3 cross V3 theta 3. So it is V3 theta 3 cross V3 theta 3 will fit here and the values are 150, minus 300, minus 300 and 800. So now fill the unfilled positions with zeros. This matrix value will be equal to K matrix is equal to 10 to the power of 3 with 150, 300, minus 150, 300, 300, 800, minus 300, 400, minus 150, 300, 0, 0, 300, 400, 0, 0. So 150 plus 150, I will get 300. It will become 0. 0 also will become 0. 800 plus 800 is 1600. And now I will get minus 150, minus 300, 300, 400. So moving on to last 4, I will get 0, 0, 0, 0, minus 150, 300, minus 300, 400, 150, minus 300, minus 300 and 800 is the value of global stiffness matrix. So once you finish the global stiffness matrix, let us compute. Moving on to the fourth step, nodal load vectors. So coming for nodal load vectors, the element 1 has uniformly distributed load. As we all know, for element 1, the nodal load vector is given by, for UDL, it is P naught L by 2, P naught L square by 12, P naught L by 2, P naught L square by 12. So therefore, if I substitute and simplify the corresponding values, the values of P naught load is 12 into 10 to the power of 3. Let me take 10 power 3 common. So this will be equal to 10 to the power of 3 times P naught L by 2. So it will be 12 into 4 divided by 2. I will get 24. P naught L square by 12. It is 12 into 4 square by 12. I will get 16. So next I will get 24 and I will get minus 16. An important note you should make here is that the loads are acting vertically downwards. Since the loads are acting vertically downwards, as per our sign convention, it is negative. So therefore, it is not equal to plus 12, it is equal to minus 12 into 10 to the power of 3. Very, very important, the loads are acting downwards. So therefore, it will become minus 24, minus 16, minus 24 and plus 16. So similarly, if I compute for element 2, the load vector is I will get 10 to the power of 3 common. it is 24. So 24 multiplied by 4 divided by 2 is 48. So it is minus 48. 24 into 4 square divided by 12, it gives us 32. So therefore it is minus 32, minus 48 and plus 32. So now if I consider these two are for node number 1 and these two are for node number, if I come here, these two are for node number 2 and these two values are for node number 3. So since we have more than one load vectors, I should move for global load vector. So therefore the fifth step, global load vector will be global load vector will be F is equal to 10 to the power of 3. At node 1 we have minus 24, minus 16. At node 2 we have 4 values overlapping, so therefore it is minus 24, minus 48. I will get minus 16 plus 16 minus 32. I will get minus 16. So next at node 3 I have minus 48 and plus 32. So this is for node number 1, this is for node number 2 and this is for node number 3. Now moving on to solve for sixth step, that is equilibrium equation application of boundary condition. Equilibrium equation and application of boundary condition. So equilibrium equation is K matrix into Q matrix is equal to F. So already I have the K matrix, so that is the reason I have not erased. K matrix into Q matrix is nothing but the variables that I should compute: V1 theta 1, V2 theta 2, V3 theta 3 is equal to F. The global load vector just now I determined it is minus 24, minus 16, minus 60, minus 16, minus 48 and plus 32 multiplied by 10 raised to 3. I can cancel off 10 raised to 3 on either side, and the boundary conditions are noted down in our step 1. So from step 1 we have V1 is equal to theta 1, which is equal to V2, which is equal to V3, all are equal to 0. So therefore V1 is first row, eliminate first row and first column. Theta 1 is second row, eliminate second row and second column. V2 is third row, eliminate third row and third column. And V3 is not equal to fourth row, V3 is equal to fifth row. Be careful. So eliminate fifth row and fifth column. Application of boundary condition, I have left out with 1600, 400, 400, 800 multiplied by theta 2 and theta 3, which is equal to minus 16 and plus 32. So solving this, I will get the answer as, so use equations with two unknowns. If I solve, I will get theta 2 is equal to minus 0.023 radians and theta 3 is equal to plus 0.051 radians. Therefore, the nodal variables are V, which is equal to V1 theta 1, V2 theta 2, V3 theta 3, which is equal to V1 is 0, theta 1 is also 0, V2 is 0, theta 2 is minus 0.023 radians, V3 is 0, theta 3 is 0.051 radians. I round it off for third decimal places. So now, by knowing the field variables, I can easily determine what he has asked. In the question he has asked, for each element, compute the deflection at midspan. So to compute the deflection at midspan, for each element, I should make use of shape functions. So therefore, deflection at midspan for element 1, so we have V is equal to N1 V1 plus N2 theta 1 plus N3 V2 plus N4 theta 2. So now, from the global deflection matrix or global field variable matrix, we know that V1, theta 1 and V2 are all equal to 0. So therefore, these values will cancel off because these values are all equal to 0. So I left out with N4 theta 2. So the deflection at midspan, substitute the value as x is equal to L by 2. So therefore, Vmax for element 1 is N4. So N4 is minus x square by Le plus x cube by L square whole multiplied by theta 2. Theta 2, I should evaluate this at midspan. So midspan is evaluate this at L by 2. How much is L by 2? So L by 2 is 4 by 2, it is 2. Substitute x is equal to 2 and solve. So I will get the Vmax for element 1 as getting 0.0115 meters. 0.0115 meters. So similarly, if I do the deflection for element 2, this is for element 1. If I do it for element 2, I should compute it at LV is equal to, I should compute it at midspan, so that is x is equal to L by 2. So for element 2 also, L is equal to 4, so I will get the value as 2 at midspan. This is length of the element, half at midspan. So for element 2, I will get V is equal to N1. The node numbers are 2 and 3, so therefore it is N1 V2 plus N2 theta 2 plus N3 V3 plus N4 theta 4. So now if I clearly observe V1 theta 2, V2 and V3 are equal to 0. So V2 and V3 are equal to 0. So I left out with N2 theta 2 and N4 theta 4. So therefore Vmax is equal to N2. So the value of N2 is known to us and N4 is also known to us. So using N2 and N4, substituting x is equal to 2 and multiplying theta 2 and theta 4, I will get is theta 3. It is theta 3. Sorry, make the correction. It is theta 3. It is theta 3. So theta 3 is 0.051. So you will be getting minus 0.037 meters. Therefore, the deflection at midspan for element 1 is 11.5 millimeters and minus 37 millimeters. So now I have done the first thing what he has asked. Now he has asked for each element find the end reaction. So formula to determine the end reaction is given. End reaction is equal to K matrix into Q matrix minus F. K matrix into Q matrix minus F. So now for element 1 and for element 2, so write down the corresponding values of K matrix for element 1, Q values for element 1 and F matrix for element 1. Similarly for element 2, you note down K matrix for element 2, Q matrix for element 2 and F for element 2. Therefore, after substituting the values of K, Q and F for each element, the K for element 1 is available in step 2. The K remains same for element 1 as well as for element 2, that is element stiffness matrix, and Q for element 1 is V1 theta 1, V2 theta 2, and Q for element 2 is V2 theta 2 and V3 theta 3. And element force vectors are also available in our step number 4, elements load vectors. So substituting the corresponding element stiffness matrix, element field variable and element load vectors, doing matrix multiplication and subtracting, I will get these values as the end reactions for both the elements. And important note, I not multiplied 10 power 3 here and I also not multiplied 10 power 3 here. Therefore, since this is in kilonewton per meter and this is also in kilonewtons, meter will get cancelled. So therefore, this is in kilonewton and this is also in kilonewton. So therefore, the unit will be kilonewton for support reactions or for end reactions. Same thing is maintained here. This is the final answer for the end reactions for each element. So this completes our problem number 1. Thank you.